Dark Shadows, number 37, BTR 21467, Air 22167, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. Even the brightness of morning cannot dislodge the phantoms of the night before. They remain to live in the minds of all who were at Collinwood as the source of a baffling mystery and an undefined terror.
Mrs. Johnson, you are here to dust those things, not to break them. Please be a little more careful. They're very fragile.
So am I. So am I, Mrs. Collins. I break very easy.
What are you talking about?
Well, my nerves aren't what they used to be, not with all the goings-on around here.
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean by goings-on.
Don't you? What about last night?
What about it?
Well, the spooks and ghosts and whatnot, I've a good mind to give my notice.
Well, I don't see what that has to do with you.
You don't? Well, just think about it for a minute. Now, you take last night. I was upstairs watching over your little boy and trembling in my boots for fear something would happen to him.
Yes, well, that's exactly why I'm very anxious to get him out of here.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, Mrs. Collins. It never seemed right to take a Collins away from Collinsport, but I'm coming more and more to your way of thinking that any place would be better for that child than be around here.
Thank you. I'm glad you're beginning to see my viewpoint.
And then you take Vicki Winters. She's a sweet child. Now, why did they mix her up into this? Will you tell me why she cried out in sheer terror last night? Why? Can you give me one good reason why that girl was in such a state?
No, I can't.
Well, I didn't think so. Nobody can. Poor thing. Carried up to bed. She was a bundle of raw nerves all night.
Well, that's another reason why I want to get David away from here. She's much too high-strung to be left in charge of him.
Well, not usually. Just last night. I mean, ordinarily, she's as sensible as they come.
Well, then something's happening to her because she's changing.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Everybody's changing. Something happened to everybody, and I don't know what it is.
Neither do I. But certainly everybody is not changing. You're not, Mrs. Johnson. You remain the same.
Well, that's because I'm a person that believes in minding her own business.
So I've noticed.
I don't mess with what shouldn't be messed with. Leave well enough alone. That's my motto.
And a very admirable one it is.
Well, I tell you, if everyone were like me, there wouldn't be any problems.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, you take that Dr. Guthrie. Some doctor.
What do you mean?
Well, I'd like to know what he's doctoring. That's what I'd like to know.
He's a psychologist.
Well, a psychologist is supposed to deal with people's brains, isn't he? I mean, he's supposed to, say, lie there on the couch and tell me your problems and all that foolishness.
Well, I suppose so.
Well, then what is he doing here?
Well, he's trying to find out what caused my sister-in-law's illness. You know that.
That's what I'm getting at. If he's working on Mrs. Stoddard's case, why is he here and she's stretched out in Boston, telling nothing to anybody? Answer me that.
Well, I can't. I wish I could.
And who is he, what kind of psychology was he practicing there last night? And who is he practicing it on?
Yes. I wonder.
I tell you, I never heard of a doctor doing what he was doing outside of a witch doctor in a movie.
Well, it was just an experiment, I think.
Oh, what kind of experiment? Doctors are supposed to be scientific people. There wasn't anything scientific about what went on last night.
Well, I'm just as much in the dark as you are.
I tell you, it may be an old New England custom, but I never held with anything like those seances and that kind of tomfoolery.
Neither do I.
I smell something fishy, and it's not the wind off the bay, and I don't like it.
Well, time will tell. And if one has enough time, it will tell everything.
Well, I'm going to try to keep him away from Vicky.
That might be a very wise idea.
I better finish up here and get back up to the house.
Mrs. Johnson, what are you doing?
I'm trying to put out the fire so I can clean your hearth here.
You mustn't do that. Leave the fire alone. I want it left burning all the time. It gets awfully chilly in here.
Well, it won't take me but a minute.
Mrs. Johnson, you heard what I said. Don't touch that fire. Don't ever touch it, ever. Do you understand that? I want that fire burning all the time.
Yes, Mrs. Collins.
Thank you.
Mrs. Johnson, come in. Well, I didn't expect to see you today.
Mr. Devlin, I have information I'd give you even if you weren't paying me.
Well, it must be pretty devastating information for you to give it to me for nothing.
Do you know what went on at Collinwood last night?
That's what I pay you for, Mrs. Johnson, to find out.
They had a seance.
A what?
You heard me, a seance, where they call on the spirits. I say spirits are like dogs. Let sleeping ones lie.
Well, why did they do it?
Well, they said it was to help find out what's wrong with Mrs. Stoddard.
Well, I should think a doctor would be more help than a ghost.
That's what I'm getting at. It was a Dr. Guthrie's idea.
Guthrie, what's he up to?
Well, I don't know, and I don't like it. I don't like him much.
Well, tell me, what happened?
Well, as far as I know, I was upstairs looking after young David, and they were having this thing down in the drawing room.
They? Who was there?
Well, it was Dr. Guthrie, Carolyn, Vicky, Roger, and then Mrs. Roger Collins came in, and they sat there. They had the lights out, and all of a sudden, Vicky began spouting French in a strange voice. And then, suddenly, she gave a terrible scream and collapsed.
Is she all right?
Well, yes, they put her to bed, and she's coming along. She said that before, she had this feeling of a terrible fire, of being burned up just before she collapsed.
That settles it. Something's got to be done about this Dr. Guthrie, and done quickly.
Well, I thought that you'd feel this way, and that's why I came to see you about
Whatever's going on up there in Collinwood, whatever my quarrel is with the Collins family, I don't want it touching that girl.
Well, what do you want to do?
I'm going to put my lawyer on it. Find out who Guthrie is. Oh, and Mrs. Johnson, I want you to keep an eye on Vicky. I don't want anybody who can get to her to harm her, all right?
Right, I'll do just that.
Well, thank you for telling me, Mrs. Johnson. I'll talk to you later. Hello, Burke Devlin here, and I want to speak to Grant. I don't care if he's in a meeting. Get him for me right now. Hello, Grant. I want you to do something for me immediately. I want to run a check on Dr. Peter Guthrie. I want to know who he is, where he came from, what he's doing in Collinsport. You won't get on it tomorrow. You'll get on it today. I want to know immediately.
Dr. Guthrie, may I ask where are you going?
Well, I thought I'd take a look at Miss Winters.
No. She's to have no visitors. Those are my orders.
I'm not an ordinary visitor, Mrs. Johnson. I'm a doctor.
Well, I don't care what you call yourself. If it weren't for you, that girl wouldn't be in that condition.
I might be able to help her.
Like you did last night?
Mrs. Johnson, there are some things that are hard to understand.
Well, that may be, but I understand a couple of things. I understand when a girl is in a bad way, and I understand who put her in it.
I'm not going to argue with you, Mrs. Johnson.
Well, and I'm not going to argue with you. But the only way that you'll get up these stairs is over my body. Now, if you want to knock me down, you're welcome to it. But that's the only way you'll get to see Vicki Winters. Now, nobody goes upstairs. That's that.
Hello, Mrs. Johnson. I just come by to see Vicki.
She's resting.
Oh, well, I'll go upstairs and sit with her till she wakes up.
No, in her condition, it's better for her to be resting than visiting.
Well, I'll just look in on her.
What for?
Well, I want to see her.
Well, outside of being a little paler, she doesn't look any different than she looked yesterday.
I see. Well, I think I'll go upstairs and see my son.
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Well, he's not there.
Well, where is he?
Oh, well, he's off with Miss Carolyn. She thought it would be better for him to be out of the house while Vicki was resting.
Oh. Well, I think I'll go upstairs anyway.
But you can't.
You mean you won't let me?
I have my instructions. There's too many strange things going on around here. And until some of them are explained, nobody's going to be wandering around that girl. Nobody goes upstairs.
I smell perfume in the room. It's Jasmine.
What in the world is that noise?
Oh, that's Dr. Guthrie doing his homework. Now, if you don't mind, I've got other things to do.
She's speaking French.
Vicky doesn't know French.
It must be Josette.
Il y a des pierres tumulaires, des tombeaux vides.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Collins.
I hope I'm not disturbing you.
No, not at all. I was just going over some notes that I made at the seance last night.
How did you feel about the seance?
I thought it was fascinating.
Did you really? My goodness, I thought it was a complete failure. But with Vicki fainting just as it was getting exciting.
Oh, quite the reverse. I think that may have been the most exciting part.
Oh, really? Well, I didn't mean that. I just meant I was very concerned about Vicki.
Well, exciting may be the wrong word. Revealing may be more accurate.
Then you don't think it was a failure?
No, I think it was very successful.
Do you? Why? How fascinating.
Yes. It fascinates me, too.
Can you tell me more about it, or is it a deep, dark secret?
Well, once all the facts are assembled, you'll be among the first to know.
Well, I'm flattered. But can't you give me some hints as to the direction that your analysis is going to take?
Well, I'm not quite sure yet. Just when everything seems to be going in one direction, then there's a sudden switch.
Oh, I don't understand.
Well, it's as if there were several kinds of phenomena operating here at the same time.
Phenomena?
Well, that's just a word. A rather poor choice of one, I guess.
Oh, no. No, a very interesting one. But when are you going to sort through all these phenomena and come to some kind of conclusion, huh?
Well, I'm going to sort through them by using a very modern scientific device, a tape recorder.
Oh, you wired us for sound.
In a matter of speaking, yes. I took the precaution of having a recorder here in the room during the seance last night.
That was very clever of you. May I hear it?
No, I'd rather not have anyone who was at the seance hear it. It might color their reactions.
I see, but you really feel that this is going to help?
Yes. It's objective. It records without making any editorial statement. You see, in the darkness and confusion, what we thought we heard might not be what we heard at all. We were too upset by what was happening to Vicky.
Yeah. Yours was a very subtle move. One might almost say crafty.
One might. After all, a tape is a tool of my craft.
Well, I can hardly wait to know what's on it.
You sound as caught up in what we might learn as I am.
I may very well be, perhaps more so. After all, a woman's curiosity is greater than a man's. And I am extremely curious about it. It is considered good manners to knock before entering a lady's home.
Never mind my manners, good, bad, or indifferent. You married the one with the manners, and look where it got you.
Burke, you are awfully tiresome when on the subject of Roger.
I'm very sorry. Is that a marked improvement in my manners?
What do you want now?
I want to know what's going on around here. I don't like any of it, and I don't
And
want
I
to be...
don't like your tone of voice. Our only chance of getting what we want is by remaining allies.
You're right. This time I am sorry.
Burke, I'm every bit as much disturbed by what's going on here as you are.
What is happening?
I wish I knew.
What about this seance business?
Oh, so you've heard about that already?
I have my sources.
A fact of which I am very much aware.
What's happened to Vicky?
But I don't know. She assumed the voice of some spirit, and just at the moment something important was about to happen, she collapsed.
Is she all right now?
I guess so. I don't know. I went up to see her this morning, but Mrs. Johnson was standing guard. She wouldn't let me upstairs.
Good. If there's anything in the house working against Vicky, I want to protect her from it.
You didn't have anything to do with Mrs. Johnson's attitude, did you?
Me? What would I have to do with it?
I don't know. It's not important. The thing that's important is Guthrie.
You're absolutely right. Is he a policeman?
Oh, Burke, use your head. Roger wouldn't let a policeman in the house.
Well, then who is he?
I don't know. But whatever he is, he's not what he seems.
Well, I don't care what he is. As long as he doesn't interfere with us.
Oh, but he is interfering. He's disrupting the entire household. He's delving into the past.
What's that got to do with us?
Carolyn is helping him. Need I remind you that since you stopped going out with her, she's not what I would call on our side.
What's Carolyn? What's she stand to gain by it?
Revenge. We've got to find out who Guthrie is and why he's here.
Well, we'll know soon enough.
What do you mean?
I put my lawyer on it. He's checking out Guthrie right now.
Good. Well, whoever he is, I have a feeling he's here to block us. And if that's the case, well, he must be removed.
Well, that's very easily said. But how are we going to do it?
By whatever means are necessary.
Mrs. Johnson! Mrs. Johnson! Mrs. Johnson! Mrs. Johnson, will you come down here? Quickly, please. Mrs. Johnson, come in here with me, please.
What is it?
Did you touch anything on this table while you were dusting it?
I did not.
Are you sure you didn't touch the tape recorder accidentally?
Dr. Guthrie, I wouldn't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole.
Well, did you see anyone leave or enter the room?
There's been no one leaving or entering. What is all this about?
Listen to this.
Oh, it sounds like a fire crackling.
Yes. The sound of fire.
Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.